My parents told me to sell my house to bail out my felon brother. When I said no, they went nuclear. They smashed my childhood trophies, sent me a video of them burning my birth certificate, and told my friends I was institutionalized. Then they held a family reunion just to announce my exile. You're not one of us. You never were. I just smiled and nodded. That night, I started planning something that would tear their lives apart. Yesterday it arrived. Now they're panicking. How could you do this to us? We need to fix this. Please let me start with the basics. I'm 31. I have a steady job in IT. A small but decent house in the suburbs, about 2 hours from the town I grew up in. Not flashy, but it's mine. Quiet neighborhood, reliable neighbors, the kind of place where people wave when they walk their dogs. I've been here 3 years now, slowly turning it into a space that feels like me. It's far enough from my parents to breathe, but close enough that they can still find a way to interfere when they want to. I'm the oldest of 2. Always the responsible one. Graduated college, kept my head down, never got into trouble. My parents used to call me their rock. That changed the day I stopped playing along. My brother Brandon is 28. He's the exact opposite. Charismatic when he wants to be, but reckless, entitled, and allergic to consequences. He dropped out of college, bounced between jobs, and has a long history of screwing up, and somehow always landing on his feet, because someone, usually me or our parents, cushioned the fall. He's got a rap sheet: petty theft, a DUI, and now something much worse. My mom, Diane, is dramatic to the core. Picture someone who cries during soap commercials and talks about loyalty like it's a religion. She sees herself as the glue holding the family together, even when she's the one swinging the hammer. My dad, Carl, is more old school. Quiet most of the time, but when he speaks, it's either a sermon or a threat. I used to think he was wise. Now I just think he's tired and bitter. They always treated Brandon like the golden child, even when he was getting suspended from school and lying to their faces. Me. I was the dependable one. The one who didn't need saving. Which made me invisible. About 2 months ago, during a regular workday, my phone rang. It was Mom. She never calls during the day, so I stepped out of my meeting to answer. No hello. No, how are you? Just panic. Brandon had been arrested again. This time it wasn't shoplifting or a bar fight. He was facing serious time for being part of a fraud ring. Identity theft, forged checks, the works. The kind of thing that comes with actual prison time, not community service. He was out on bail, barely. My parents scrambled to pull together what they could, and apparently someone co-signed with a bond agent. But the court date was looming, and they wanted a real lawyer now. A high-powered one. The kind that charges 5 figures just to show up. And that's when they asked me to sell my house. Not help with bail. Not lend some money. Sell my house. To pay for a lawyer who might keep Brandon out of prison. I was stunned. And then I said no. Only. Directly no. That's when things cracked. My mom immediately launched into guilt mode. Said I was heartless, that I didn't care about family. Dad jumped in, calling me ungrateful, saying I was too proud. Brandon even grabbed the phone at one point and screamed that I was leaving him to rot. Hung up. I assumed they'd be mad for a few days, then move on. But I underestimated how far they'd go. A week later, my phone buzzed with a video from my mom. Opened it. Shaky camera footage of her and my dad in the garage. There was a cardboard box full of my childhood stuff. Trophies from middle school, old report cards, birthday cards. They were smashing it with a hammer. My dad held up my birth certificate, set it on fire in a trash bin, and looked dead into the camera. You're dead to us. That wasn't the worst part. They started calling my friends, telling them I'd had a mental breakdown, that I'd been institutionalized and wasn't in my right mind. One friend, confused and concerned, sent me a voicemail my mom had left her. It sounded like she was trying to hold back tears. We're just so worried, she said. He's not well. We don't know what else to do. It was calculated. Cold. And then came the family reunion. Yes, even with Brandon out on bail and a trial around the corner, they threw one anyway. That's just how my family is. more worried about appearances than reality. I wasn't invited. My cousin Megan, one of the only people in the family who still has a spine, called me after. She said she tried to speak up but got shut down. Apparently, my parents made some big announcement during the barbecue. I was officially exiled. My dad stood up in front of everyone, Brandon there smirking beside him, and said, "He's not one of us. He never was." They turned me into a villain in front of the entire extended family. I didn't yell. I didn't post about it. I didn't defend myself. I just smiled, nodded, and started planning. I don't throw tantrums. I don't beg, build. And last night, after weeks of prep, what I'd been working on hit them hard. Now the group chats are blowing up. My mom's texting me non-stop. "How could you do this to us? We didn't mean it. We need to fix this. Please." Brandon's even called twice. They're scared. And they should be. I didn't sleep much the night after the reunion. Not because I was upset. By then, the anger had calcified into something colder. I was quiet, focused. You don't survive a childhood like mine without learning to pay attention. My parents used emotion like a weapon. Yelling, guilt, gaslighting, silence, all sharpened to keep you off balance. But when you stop reacting, they lose their grip. So I stopped reacting and started taking notes. While they were busy burning my birth certificate and telling anyone who'd listen that I was mentally unwell, I was pulling documents, screenshots, phone backups, email threads, every bank transfer, every Venmo request, every time I bailed Brandon out or sent money for emergencies. Kept records. Always do. I dug up a folder going back 10 years. Rent I covered for Brandon when he blew his paycheck on weed and sneakers. A used car I co-signed. Tuition money that disappeared mid-semester. My parents always said family helps family. And I believed that, until they asked me to lose everything I'd worked for just to give Brandon one more soft landing. The final straw wasn't the house. It wasn't the reunion. It was a voice memo my mom accidentally sent to our family group chat. She meant to send it to my aunt. In it she laughed. Actually laughed and said, "He thinks we're really going to fix things with him. Please. We just need the house." Then she told my dad she'd cry a little in her next message so I'd feel guilty. They both laughed. I didn't respond. I didn't delete the file either. Instead, I started working on what I now call the package. Over the next 4 weeks, I compiled everything. Copies of every payment I made for Brandon. Texts from my parents pressuring me for money. Evidence of their lies, including that voice memo. A notarized statement from a former neighbor confirming Brandon had threatened me the last time I said no. Then I wrote a letter. Not angry. Not emotional. Just clear. I explained that I was cutting all contact permanently. That I was forwarding the entire file to their church board. My dad's a deacon. Brandon's bail officer. A few select family members who still believed their version of events. Oh, and I filed a cease and desist, citing harassment and defamation. I also included a statement from my employer's legal department, outlining that any further attempts to contact me or spread false claims could lead to litigation. The next part was my favorite. I mailed 3 hard copies. One to my parents. One to Brandon. One to my aunt, who had clapped during the exile speech. They arrived yesterday morning. By 5 p.m. my cousin Megan messaged me. "Something's happening. Your mom's flipping out. Like full meltdown." By 6:30 my dad left me a voicemail. His voice was shaking. "We need to talk. This has gone too far." By 7 o'clock, Brandon texted me. "How could you do this to us?" By 8:15 my mom called sobbing. "I made a mistake. I never meant to hurt you." By 9 o'clock, she sent the first of 7 texts in a row. "We need to fix this. You're scaring us. Please. Just talk to us." They weren't sorry when they torched my childhood stuff. Or when they erased me from the family. They're only sorry now that I finally acted like I don't owe them anything. And for once, they're right to be scared. By the next morning, it was clear the package had done more than sting. Detonated. I woke up to 19 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and 3 long emails. One was from my dad's church board secretary, asking for clarification regarding certain claims and documents I'd sent. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The documents spoke for themselves, especially the voice memo. My dad always cared about his image more than anything. Deacon. Volunteer. Father of 2. Pillar of the community. So when the board heard him laughing about manipulating his son into selling his house to fund a felon's defense, that wasn't going to go unnoticed. Later that day, Megan texted again. They kicked Dad off the church board. Followed by, they're calling around begging people to ignore the lies. Too late. But I wasn't done yet. There were still loose threads. Still connections I had to sever to make this permanent. First, I shut down the old family phone plan. I'd been paying the bill for years. One of those things I started when I was 24 and forgot to stop. Brandon's line. My parents. Even my aunt's emergency phone gone. Service cancelled. Numbers recycled. Then the bank accounts. Years ago, I helped my dad set up a joint account so he could pay medical bills after knee surgery. I removed my name, froze the account. Closed another one I'd opened in Brandon's name when he swore he'd pay me back. He never did. I took the loss, but I wasn't leaving it open as a highway back into my life. Next, I reached out to the realtor who sold me my house. Not to sell it, but to move it into a living trust. My house. Name. No one else. I updated my will, power of attorney, and beneficiary list. Every document that once had a space for next of kin or emergency contact now reads, no contact. Legal restriction. I even pulled my credit report and froze it. Brandon had used my name once before years ago to open a credit card. Claimed it was a mistake. I let it go back then. Not anymore. The final move came at 3:37 p.m. on a Tuesday. That's when I sent an email to every family member who got a copy of the package but hadn't responded. Kept it brief. Please consider this notice of permanent disconnection. Any future attempt to involve me in Brandon's legal or financial matters will be treated as harassment and forwarded to my attorney. This includes emotional manipulation, third-party outreach, or attempts to contact my employer, friends, or any person I am associated with. I wish you peace. Please grant me the same. Within 10 minutes, I got 4 out-of-office auto-replies. But one reply stood out. My aunt wrote back. They're saying you've lost your mind. I see now you finally found it. Proud of you. And still I wasn't angry. I was empty. Not hollow, just cleared out. Like finally cleaning a room you didn't know was rotting from the inside. They were still spiraling. Brandon's court date was approaching, and the public defender wasn't getting it done. They needed that big shot attorney. They needed money. But I'd already removed the escape hatches, and I wasn't coming back to rebuild what they chose to burn. They could blame me all they wanted. But the truth was simple. They made me choose them or me. And for the first time in my life I chose me. Brandon's trial date came and went. I didn't go. Of course I didn't. But I watched quietly from the outside. The public defender did what he could. But when you've got prior offenses, a digital trail, and witnesses who aren't afraid to speak anymore, there's only so much a lawyer can do. He took a deal. 5 years. No parole for 3. They blamed me, of course. You abandoned him. If you had just sold the house like we asked, he could have had a real defense. Chance. Future. That was the word they kept using, future. Like I hadn't spent a decade sacrificing mine so he could have one. They never once asked why Brandon was in court to begin with. Never once mentioned the victims. Never acknowledged the pattern. Because in their minds, the only real crime was disloyalty. So, I committed one final act of disloyalty. I had debated whether or not to do it for weeks. But the moment I heard my dad had been telling people I had mental episodes, that I was institutionalized when I was 17, I wasn't. I went to grief counseling for 4 sessions, after my friend died in a car accident. That's when I made my decision. I wrote a letter not to them, not to my extended family, to their community, their neighbors, their church, their workplace colleagues. I wrote carefully. Included documents, copies of the emails, financial records, even the video of them burning my birth certificate. I stated the facts plainly. No name-calling, no threats, just the truth. And I mailed it anonymously. It wasn't revenge. It was record correction. I wanted it on paper. I wanted it where they couldn't twist it behind closed doors. I wanted people to know exactly who they were, and what they did when they thought no one was watching. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then it's been quiet. Too quiet. No more calls. No more messages. No sudden visits from extended cousins trying to play peacemaker. Just silence. Then yesterday I got a package. No return address. I almost didn't open it. Inside was a shoebox. It was filled with ash and melted metal. My childhood trophies, what was left of them. And a note taped to the inside lid, in my mom's handwriting. This is all that's left of you. I stared at it for a while. Not upset. Not shaken. Just stared. So I took a deep breath, closed the box, walked it to the backyard, and tossed it in the trash. Not the recycling. Not the garage. The bin that goes to the dump. Then I turned and went back inside. My house, my home, where I had peace and silence. And no one left to ask me to burn it all down for someone else.